What's up guys, and welcome to my review of Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, I went to the midnight showing of this, I guess this morning, you could say, and I really liked it. So I'm just going to go through like the points that I've put down that I think maybe need talking about, need discussing, and I'll give it like a star rating, like out of 10 or whatever, at the end of the review. I saw it in 3D. I don't normally watch the Avengers films in 3D. I watched the first Avengers film in 3D, but I'm not really like a massive fan of 3D and how it works at the moment, but I did see it in 3D, and I must say it was done very well. It was barely noticeable, and it was very subtle, and you know, you had the glasses on, but you could, it looked like it didn't make a difference, but there was a difference, if you guys know what I mean. It looked really good, because if you remember like back in like the day when 3D was stuff like just popping out at certain points, they've actually managed to kind of like master the Avengers universe 3D wise, like environmentally. So it looked really good, and it wasn't kind of like a really cheesy, tacky lot of 3D. It just looked, it was very well done, considering I'm not really a fan of 3D. It was very well done. The beginning was not how I was expected to be at all. It was completely straight into the action, straight away, and we had the iconic Avengers scene in slow motion about five minutes into the film, which was cool. That looked good in 3D actually. It was a very hectic beginning, and when I was first watching it, I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this, but it worked. I'm not sure how they managed to link it in like with the previous films, because obviously Avengers 2 is the end of sequence 2 of the Marvel kind of Avengers universe, and in between Avengers 1 and Avengers 2 we've had Thor, Dark World, Captain America, Winter Soldier, which was the most recent one, but before that we had Iron Man 3, and I know that it must be like a long period of time between when Iron Man 3 was set and when Age of Ultron was set, but I'm not sure how they, well, obviously I know how they did it, but I'm not sure I like the fact that it went from Tony Stark basically giving up being Iron Man to all of a sudden him being straight slap bang in the middle of the action with all of these like brand new suits and all of this kind of stuff. I mean, everyone knew Iron Man was going to be in it, and everyone knew Iron Man was going to have suits, and at the end of Iron Man 3 it did say that he was like, I might not have my toys, but I'm still Iron Man or whatever. That we did get that, but it felt like there was a massive gap between what Tony Stark had said and done with blowing up all of his suits for Pepper to kind of like, I don't know if he was like intending to quit being Iron Man, but obviously not. Between that and him being like smack bang in the middle of the action of Avengers 2. So I'm not sure like where the timeline works with that. I'm not sure how much time is between Iron Man 3 and Age of Ultron, but you know, it's like it was weird. It was very weird, and because of the like how action-packed the introduction was, it was very overwhelming considering everything that had happened in each of the characters' solo films beforehand. So it just kind of like, there was no kind of like pussyfooting around getting back into the action or whatever. It was like smack bang, you were straight there. And Hydra is where it started off, which I was really surprised about, because I thought Hydra would have been finished by now, but apparently not. And I don't think they're going to be going anywhere anytime soon either, so Hydra is kind of still a thing. Hulk and Black Widow, Natasha and Bruce Banner, that is so cute. They are like kind of, they have this kind of like, I don't know if they like, obviously Bruce can't do like romance and stuff, and Natasha's like a badass assassin, and it's like you find out a lot about like all of the characters' past and their fears and things like that in this one, and you find out that they're actually quite suited to each other. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I love the fact that it's Bruce Banner and Natasha. That's really, really cool. They portrayed Tony Stark as a bad guy ever so slightly. I was actually kind of hoping for more than ever so slightly, because when it comes to the Civil War with Avengers vs. I suppose it would be Avengers vs. Spider-Man, but when it comes to the Civil War with Spider-Man in, Iron Man is the enemy, and we had kind of a sneak peek of Tony Stark's way of thinking that perhaps isn't kind of as life-changing and life-saving as we'd perhaps hope it to be, and obviously out comes Ultron, who has got kind of Tony Stark's mind imprinted in his kind of programming, and he just wants to blow shit up and kind of extincts the human race. But it's clever because he's been programmed to be like that by Tony, and if Tony had programmed him to make it a better world, there was a quote, Ultron doesn't know the difference between saving the world and destroying it, and that's come from his creator, and that's obviously Tony Stark. So we kind of see like a slight civil unbalance between the Avengers when Stark and Banner make Ultron, and you know it's completely by accident that he starts up, but it's kind of started something off that maybe, you know, in a few films' time in the future, Iron Man / Tony Stark might not be the good guy that we know him to be, which is going to be a shame, really. As cool as it would be, they've obviously cast Robert Downey Jr. for this role absolutely perfectly, and Iron Man is just he kind of keeps the funny side of the Avengers alive. And I must say, this film there was a lot of humour, a lot more than was in the first one, and it was kind of more like the Iron Man films with how much humour they had in it. Not quite as much as Iron Man 3, because that was like jam-packed with humour, but there was a lot of humour, and it was really cool. I think probably my favourite scene was the one where they're at the bar after getting the scepter, and they're trying to pick up Thor's hammer, and they can't do it, and then Captain America comes along and kind of like shifts it the tiniest little bit, and Thor's face just drops. But you know, there's a lot of funny things about it, and they have this whole thing about bad language, and that's kind of like a running joke throughout the whole film, with everyone taking the mickey out of Captain America. So that's really, really cool. Infinity Stones, that's kind of the basis of this film, whether we know it or not at the beginning, which we don't. It's complicated because it's like, basically this film was the kind of integration of Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. If you guys didn't know, obviously Guardians of the Galaxy are being introduced into the Avengers film series, so you can actually count Guardians of the Galaxy into the sequence 2 series of films between Avengers 1 and Avengers 2, because Star-Lord has one of the Infinity Stones. He has the orb, which is the Power Stone. So we've seen now, in previous films, we've seen the Tesseract, which is the Space Stone. We've got the Ether, which we don't know what stone that is, and we've got the orb, which is the Ether was the one in Thor: The Dark World, by the way. The orb, which was, like I say, Star-Lord's. That's the Power Stone. And this one, we had one that was familiar to us from the first lot of films, and that's the Scepter, and the Mind Stone was in that. So we've seen 4 of the Infinity Stones. There's only 6, and it feels like there's like, obviously it's like hinted at quite heavily in the film that everything's going to be coming together for a reason. But it's kind of linking in Guardians of the Galaxy with the Avengers universe. And as much as there are things that are unclear, like how Hydra managed to get the Scepter again, even though I know at the end, like after the credits of one of the films, there was like a short scene of them having it. I don't know how they got it, because obviously at the end of Avengers 1, it went back up with Loki and Thor. So I don't really know how that came about. I don't know if I like the fact that you have to have watched the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show to kind of know what's gone on with S.H.I.E.L.D. Because obviously it's said a lot in the film that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been torn down, S.H.I.E.L.D. has been corrupt, S.H.I.E.L.D. this, S.H.I.E.L.D. that, and basically they're the bad guys. And then you find out that, I mean, because I watched the TV show and they are kind of like interlinked with Hydra, but if you haven't watched that and you've kind of watched the films and you see, oh yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. are in this like great position, blah blah blah, Nick Fury's running, the director of whatever, of these superheroes, and then all of a sudden you get to Avengers 2 and S.H.I.E.L.D. has basically gone to shit, you know, it's confusing. I don't, you know, it's good that they're trying to link the TV show into the films, because it makes like, you get like a vaster lot of information, and you get a lot more background in from the TV show, and the TV show is actually really good. I recommend you do watch it if you get a chance to, but if you can't watch it, then you don't know what's happened, if you know what I mean. It's weird, and it works if every single person had watched the TV show, but not every single person has. So, you know, it was good, but it was a good link, but I think it was maybe too much of a strong link. I think it was maybe too much of a strong subject to have just for the TV show. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Obviously we had some new Avengers in the film. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch started out being bad guys, actually joined the Avengers at the end. Quicksilver unfortunately does die, but he kind of dies with honour. He saves Hawkeye and the kid that he's trying to save. But Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch obviously have some kind of like vendetta against Stark, because it was one of his weapons that was stolen that blew up their kind of apartment building, and that's how their parents died. But after they see what kind of like Ultron is planning, they do actually go over to the side of the Avengers, which is really cool. And they have kind of like, it felt like an X-Men style thing. You know, if you know in the X-Men films when they're training all of the new mutants, where and it's got Captain America and Black Widow training the new Avengers, but it's not just them that are new. We've got Vision as well. Vision is new, and they have done Vision so well, and it's Vision that actually has the Mind Stone, and it was Ultron trying to create like a more human body for himself, and use the Mind Stone to kind of take over anything and everything. But he's actually kind of like a descendant from Asgard, because he can pick up Thor's hammer, which Thor wasn't very happy about. Again, that was another funny moment. But he's got the cape, and he kind of looks a little Superman-ish, to be honest, but pink. But it was really cool, because obviously Tony has put Jarvis into the Vision's kind of like firmware, because he's not human, but he's not like completely robot either. So, because obviously Ultron destroys Jarvis, and yeah, so Jarvis has kind of like been re-uploaded into Vision, which is cool, because you've got like an actual face to put to Jarvis now, even if he's not called Jarvis. But Tony does actually have a new computer thing, and it's not called Jarvis, it's a female one, I can't remember what it's called, but he has like a new Jarvis, which is cool. Hawkeye has a family. I wasn't expecting that, but he has like some kind of secret like safe house where he's got a wife and kids, which is cool. But I don't know if it like means that he's like left the Avengers after that was their last fight or whatever. I was very kind of like almost certain that at least one of the main characters was going to die. I mean, I know Quicksilver dies, but you know, he wasn't like a fully fledged Avenger just yet, and it was weird because where and when are Spider-Man and Wolverine going to fit into this? Because we know they are going to be in it, but I don't know how, when and where, because obviously they're recasting Spider-Man again, which is a fucking stupid idea, because Andrew Garfield was absolutely the most perfect person to be playing Spider-Man. I don't know why they're recasting again, and that really pisses me off. Rant over. Hugh Jackman keeps saying he's quit Wolverine and then he does another Wolverine film, etc, etc, so he's basically going to do another Wolverine kind of like thing. So how are they going to be in the film? I don't know if they'll leave it till after maybe Guardians of the Galaxy has been introduced into the Marvel Universe now, because we've still got a few more films coming out. We've got like Ant-Man as well, which is going to be either really good or really bad, and I have a feeling it's going to be really bad. But we've got that, and we've got like Iron Man 4 potentially coming out. I think they've actually kind of like, I don't know, there's like, I don't know what's happening between now and the next Avengers film, because what, you know, we know now basically that Thanos, who is kind of like linked into the Guardians of the Galaxy universe, he is the reason for all of the shit that's gone down in the Avengers universe. And that's how they're going to be linking in Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. It was Thanos that told Loki to go and attack the Avengers in the first one. It was Thanos that kind of tried to take over Ultron in this one. It was Thanos that had a big part of Guardians of the Galaxy of getting the Power Stone. And it's all kind of like mixed around him and the Collector, who kind of like, you don't really see much of him. He's in Guardians of the Galaxy, but you don't really see much of him in the Avengers universe. He was like a thing where you see him at the end of the credits, and he has this kind of thing where he goes 1 down, 5 to go, and that was at the end of Thor 2, I think, and obviously that's talking about the Infinity Stones. So the Collector, Thanos, and obviously as they're going to be against Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers, who I don't know if they're going to unite or if they're going to be against each other, I don't know, but there's going to be some kind of big old collision, and it's all about these Infinity Stones, because someone wants to kind of become the most powerful person in the universe, which is basically the synopsis of every single superhero film these days. But it's a really cool link, you know, how they've done it, because it's been really subtle, and at the end of this one, the end of Avengers 2, it's kind of like that you see Thanos kind of getting up off of his throne and being like, right, I'm going to have to deal with this myself then. So, as much as it is kind of, it's hinted at a little bit, like throughout the films, it's been really, really subtle, and it's not until you get to the end credit clips of Avengers 2 that you see that it's actually him that's been ordering all of these attacks on the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I don't know if the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy are going to be against each other or working with each other to take out the ultimate force and trying to get rid of the Infinity Stones. I don't know, because some of the Infinity Stones have been destroyed now. We don't know where they all are. There's still 2 more to find, which is probably going to be kind of like the main focus of Sequence 3, but I don't know who they're going to do that with. Because originally each film was going to have just a trilogy, but they gave Iron Man 2 films before the Avengers came out, and then he had his 3rd film, and now Avengers 2's come out, and he's got like shit to do still. So apparently he's getting Iron Man 4, apparently Black Widow's getting a film, apparently War Machine's getting a film. That is apparently. Also apparently, the titles for the actual kind of like next Avengers film have been confirmed, and they're going to be called, apparently, I don't quote me on this because this is just what I've read, Infinity Wars, and it's going to be in 2 parts. So I'm hoping there isn't going to be like part 1, a load more films, then part 2. I'm hoping it's going to be part 1, part 2, and then that'll be it. And then maybe they'll move on to Civil War after that. That would be cool. But it's like everything seems to be coming together now. If you watch each of the films in the Avengers series, I mean, yeah, there's the massive link. They're all linked with S.H.I.E.L.D. They're all linked through Tony Stark's dad, or Captain America is, like, potentially anyway, and they've all got something that links them together. You know, they're all like they all come across these artifacts that the others have come across as well, and they all kind of like come together, and they've all got a joint goal, and they've all got one thing that they are completely the same with, you know. And like I say, they are all like they're all united by S.H.I.E.L.D., who, by the way, has returned, not as S.H.I.E.L.D. but as the Avengers kind of like base kind of thing, but it's got a lot of the old stuff. But like I was saying, they have got like a common goal. They know, you know, that they are a team, they are united, and that was always a thing, but it wasn't until this film that you see just how much things overlap. And you know, considering we've only seen Thanos like as a character instead of just in a trailer once, it is incredible to see how they've managed to intertwine him into every single Marvel film without us knowing it. It is so clever. They have done a fantastic job. I can't wait to see what else they're going to throw at us. I'm hoping the next lot of films, there isn't going to be too many of them, and we haven't got too much of a wait between Avengers 3, or if they're going to call it Infinity Wars Part 1 and 2. I hope there's not going to be a massive wait, but obviously we've got Sequence 3 to look forward to now, which I'm really excited about, to see if they're going to add anyone else in, to see if they're going to develop anything else. I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with the Infinity Stones, because obviously there's 2 more to find, so that'll probably happen before the next Avengers film comes out, and then it'll be just a big war during the Avengers film. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think there were some parts that it kind of like it was missing. It did feel like sometimes that stuff had happened and you didn't really know why, and some of the things felt like a little bit like stupid and pointless. But I loved the humour. Despite the fact that, you know, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that you have to have watched the TV show, I do like that they have linked it in, even if they have linked it in kind of too heavily. I love that Thanos has been entwined in this the whole time and we haven't even had a freaking clue. I love how they're going to bring Guardians of the Galaxy into it, and basically they have done a fantastic job with this film. I advise everyone, even if you're not a Marvel fan, go watch it. Go watch it with a geeky friend and watch them nerd out as everything plays out, because they will. I did. I was sat there with my boyfriend and he was like kind of falling asleep, and I was just there like kind of squealing in my seat from excitement as everything just kind of rolled out. And it feels like now that any gaps that needed filling were filled. I mean, yeah, we've got that one gap that has now come about between Iron Man 3 and Avengers 2, but any gap, any knowledge that we didn't have, any questions that we had, have now been answered by this film. We've got basically they can go anywhere now, as long as we find out what the other 2 Infinity Stones are before the next Avengers film. They can do anything, and it's going to be incredible. I cannot wait. So, what do I give this film out of 10? An 8? Potentially a strong 8. 8.5. I'm going to give it an 8.5 because it was great. I loved it, and you know, I've just said how much I love like a lot of the stuff that they've done, but there were little things that kind of gave it a kind of like that kind of downfalled it a little bit, and they were only little things. But when you're someone like me who pays attention to all the little things, and you know, everyone that went to see the midnight showing was obviously a massive Marvel fan, and they're the kind of people that do pay attention to the tiny little details. And it was them tiny little details that unfortunately did bring it down from a 10. But that being said, it is still a fantastic film. If you don't know what you're looking for, then you'd give this film a 10 out of 10. It's only because I love like the superhero universe as a whole. I love Marvel, and you know, it's only because I know what to look for that I can drop the thing down and drop the rating down a little bit. But if you didn't know what to look for, then you give this film a 10. It is fantastic. It really is fantastic. Worth waiting all this time for. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with the next lot of films. I'm really, really excited, guys. If you get a chance to go and see this, make sure you do. Let me know what you think of it if you do. If you have any questions that need answering about this film, then feel free to drop me a comment. I will do my best to answer it. If you go and see it, let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think about my review. And as always, guys, until the next time you hear from me, stay classy, gamers.